Leading off our discussion now, Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett of Texas. He's a senior member of the powerful House Ways and Means Committee. Also with us, former federal prosecutor Barbara McQuaid. She is an MSNBC legal contributor. And Jill Wine-Banks, a former assistant Watergate special prosecutor and an MSNBC legal analyst, is with us. And Congressman Doggett, I want to begin with you and the Ways and Means Committee, your attempt to obtain the president's tax returns. This is a power that the Senate Finance Committee has with its jurisdiction over taxation, and the House Ways and Means Committee has with its jurisdiction over taxation. It is rarely used. In my years as working as the staff director of the Senate Finance Committee, I never saw it used. And so the system is a little rusty about actually how to use it. Does Congressman Neal feel that he has all the legal counsel he needs now to proceed with asking the IRS to deliver Donald Trump's tax returns?
Well, that would really be for him to say. I have confidence in him and the approach he's taken here. Clearly, the evidence grows by the day of a potential criminal enterprise here, and we have our work cut out. Given the confidence that we need in the tax system for the American people, given the role that the president can play in tax law and tax administrative decisions, there's some estimate that he may have gotten as much as $1 billion for his family out of the recent tax law. So we have so many reasons, in addition to what Michael Cohen has said this week, to look at the tax law, tax policy, and then our committee also has a responsibility for others. The possibility of significant amount of Saudi and Russian influence through investments in Mr. Trump's enterprises, that also needs to be explored. So I'm hopeful now, we're 3 months almost into this session, that we will move almost immediately to get personal and business tax returns in order to get a full picture of what's going on here. You're familiar, Lawrence, as you said, with this statute. It's almost a 100-year-old statute. It makes it clear that all it takes is the signature of the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee to request the Treasury Department to provide these returns, though I think good groundwork is being laid here to lay out a very legitimate set of legislative purposes that will be met by getting these returns.
Congressman, I just want to clarify for the audience that one of the purposes of the committees, the chairman being able to obtain the returns, is actually for to understand how tax law is working. And so the cases that I have seen when I was at the Senate Finance Committee were where we obtained certain kinds of tax returns where the individual's information was crossed out. We didn't know whose return it was. We just wanted to see what does it look like when you see a certain pattern of deductions, and how does this particular real estate deduction work, and how is it working in practice. That's normally what it's been for. It's a pretty academic exercise. This is something very different. This is almost like the Ways and Means Committee wanting to do its own audit of returns, and that's something we haven't seen before.
Well, and we're in an unprecedented situation with this president and the way he operates and the way he's operated and mixed his personal interest and desire for personal enrichment with what should be the public interest. So there are many aspects of this that need to be explored. And of course, even Donald Trump recognized he needed a stamp of approval for his tax returns. So he produced a letter that I think you've discussed last year from his law firm saying that he was clear of any Russian counterparts. Of course, the law firm that gave him that stamp of approval had up on their website that they were proud to be the Russia Law Firm of the Year. And so looking at his foreign entanglements as reflected not only in his personal returns, but up to 500+ entities that he appears to control that range from Azerbaijan to Miami Beach to Panama. There's good reason to look at those, see what confidence we can have that he's even being audited. Michael Cohen raised a question about that as to whether he was actually being audited. But we want to be sure that the audit's done right, if that's happening. In Richard Nixon's case, there were some really generous public comments about the audit from the IRS, and then when the facts were all out there, it turned out that he owed a significant amount of money. Here's a president that appears to have engaged, according to his fixer, his lawyer, in some very questionable, what appear to be criminal sleazy kind of operations that would deny tax revenue the government needs and confidence that the public needs in this tax system so that we all do our part to support this country.
Jill Wine-Banks, Congressman Doggett just handed the ball off to you with that reference to Richard Nixon's tax returns, which I know were part of the Watergate investigation. And I have to say, this week, Jill, for you, this is when it must really start feeling like Watergate. You have very serious congressional investigations underway at the very same time that you have a very serious special prosecutor at work. And now we see the pursuit of the president's tax returns. Tell us about how the Nixon tax returns worked their way into the investigation.
Well, first of all, it's both congratulations to your opening and Congressman Doggett. That really lays out a significant case, and also to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who really laid the foundation, saying that through a very concise series of questions that there was a real reason to get the tax returns and financial and bank records of the president. She really laid it out, and she also identified some significant witnesses that should be called to Congress, and having public hearings is very much a part of what Watergate did to bring the American people the knowledge they needed so that they could accept what we did in the indictment. The tax returns for Richard Nixon related to some phony deductions that he had taken and were legitimate grounds for one of the many things that he did wrong. And they sort of got lost in the overall obstruction of justice case, the abuse of power, the abuse of government agencies like the CIA to interfere with the FBI. Those things ended up being much more what the public focused on. But I think that this series of really first-time public hearings is so critical, and we need more of it. The American people want to know and should know, and that's whether the evidence ends up exonerating or incriminating the president. We don't know the outcome, but so far the public hearing is incriminating to the president.
And Barbara McQuaid, as a prosecutor, when you hear Congressman Jerry Connolly say, building a case, what you're seeing is Congress methodically, as he put it, building a case. And you see, we now have 3 to 4 committees in active pursuit of building that case.
Yeah, a supervisor of mine, when I was a federal prosecutor, used to like to use this metaphor to say, one brick is not a wall, but many bricks are a wall. And so don't expect to advance a case with any one witness or any one document. But if you can assemble enough of them, you can put together a very sizable and significant case. And so this week, I think we learned many things that help advance that case. Michael Cohen himself is not a wall of evidence. And I think there are those who are pointing to Michael Cohen and saying, see there's no collusion, there is no case. But he advanced the ball in many ways. First, some of the facts that he testified to, some of the documents he brought with himself. But, as Jill just said, in the questioning, for example, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez identified and drew out of him, elicited the names of additional people that should be questioned and other documents that should be reviewed. And so in that way, every time you interview a witness, every time you look at documents, you uncover additional bricks that you can use to build that wall.
And Congressman Lloyd Doggett, I know when you became a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, you thought, as all committee members thought, that the most controversial, pressurized thing you'll ever handle is tax legislation, because that's what usually is the most pressurized thing in a Congress. But here you are now in the Ways and Means Committee at the very center of this investigation, and we really appreciate you joining us tonight, and we hope you can come back. We're going to have to hear more about how it's proceeding in your committee. We really appreciate it. Barbara McQuaid and Jill Wine-Banks, we always need your expertise on this, and we're lucky to have it again tonight. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.